Good evening and welcome to the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center. My name is Jerry Schutz, and tonight we have put together a video montage of memories of the theater, both past and present. 10 years ago, the Kenworthy family donated the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center to the community. And this is our way of showing you what the community thinks of her theater.
The Kenworthy Performing Arts Center, on with the show! Since 1926, we've been here to entertain you. Now we've grown up from vaudeville and movies to a full performing arts venue.
Must have been in mid-20s. My mother-in-law played the piano for silent movies at the Kenworthy.
Happiest memory of the Kenworthy would be my RA training from 2004, 2005, and 2006. The Kenworthy, I believe, was donated to Residence Life for the purpose of movies and fellowship among the RAs after our training program was over.
Indiana Jones, The Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's what I saw there.
Actually, my favorite was the first movie I ever watched. My brother took me to 2 hours of The Roadrunner back in the early 60s. So, but my first movie ever.
I go to the movies there all the time. The last one that sticks out in my mind was going to see H2O. I don't know if you went and saw that when that was playing, but that was pretty neat, and that was free and very informational about the tar sands up in Alberta. So it serves a purpose for many different functions, educational and enjoyment.
I moved to Moscow in 1977, and of course there were no other theaters other than downtown, the Kenworthy and the Newark in Moscow. And Star Wars came. I saw the first Star Wars at the Kenworthy when I first moved to Moscow, and the line at that time went down the street, around the corner, and it was awesome. Met a bunch of people waiting in line, and that's my favorite experience.
1977, standing in line with my mom and my brother for opening night of Star Wars. I saw that movie 12 times in the Kenworthy. I am that big a nerd.
I was hired on to restore the Kenworthy, and so as we were demolishing Beth Kenworthy's old apartment behind the screen of the then movie theater, we came across the original proscenium arch from the vaudeville theater, and that was amazing to begin with because it still had great color in it and beautiful plaster arch, which is there now. And then as well as that, we discovered the footlights. So the actual original vaudeville frame to the stage still existed. It was just hidden by all that plaster, which was amazing after all those years.
More recently, the Uppity Blues women here, and I got to sit in the balcony to an absolutely full theater of 350 people listening to their wonderful renditions of music, and that was incredible. The excitement from the community was just amazing.
My favorite experience at the Kenworthy, although I've had a lot of them being involved with Moscow Community Theater, is the time that my band, Sage and Time, opened for Big Brother and the Holding Company. That was the thrill of a lifetime.
You know, I thought it was really awesome that they showed It's a Wonderful Life there. I mean, yeah, it was probably a bigger thrill for my wife, but we both really enjoyed seeing It's a Wonderful Life on a big screen for the holiday season.
Proof is my favorite Kenworthy memory. I really enjoyed that.
My favorite Kenworthy memory is getting cast in Oliver when I was 16 years old. It was my first community theater experience, and it led me on a path where I met a bunch of friends and became a theater major. So kind of directed the way my life went.
I was 4 years old. My dad took me to a science fiction movie and scared me to death. He had to put his hand over my head to keep me from crying. That's my favorite Kenworthy memory.
Oh man, I have a lot of Kenworthy memories. My daughter was in a couple of Moscow Community Theater productions. She was a Poppy in The Wizard of Oz, and it opened up the world of theater to her. And what I loved about Moscow Community Theater was the multi-generational experience she had, and the Kenworthy is a fabulous performing venue.
Well, the Women's Center has been doing Luna Fest and the Vagina Monologues at the Kenworthy Theater for probably about the last 5 years or so, and I think that the feel of the theater is so perfect for these two events. I mean, people are coming together. It has a really great community feel. I've had some really funny, experiences with actors backstage during the vagina monologues and all of the kind of intricacies of coming off the stage, having to run around the building and then go back in the entrance to be able to make their entrance into the scene. And it has a really cool atmosphere.
I think maybe just being on the board over these years with the various people that have served on the board over time, that's been a fun thing. And then when we tried to drown the debt in the pond here at the house, that was kind of fun. We didn't quite drown it, but we put some of it away, and we're working that debt down from 60-some thousand.
I've acted many times at the Kenworthy and really enjoyed it, but what I really have as my favorite memories are the shows that I have directed there with the young people from Moscow and the surrounding areas. It gives them a sense not just of the glamour on stage, but of the reality backstage, where there's very little room and they have to be quiet and they have to pay attention. It's good training for them in the discipline of theater.
My favorite memory of the Kenworthy, back in about 8 years ago, my dad passed away. My mother had passed away several years earlier. And I just thought it would be really great to, in memory of them, to make a donation to help enhance the interior of the Kenworthy. So we got together and got enough money to put up the central neon colored light right in the middle of the theater. And I think that's just in memory of my folks. We have fond memories. The first two movies I ever saw in the Kenworthy, I can remember Snow White and 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. So our family used and utilized the Kenworthy all these years. It was a family theater.
Well, in 2001, we cast the production of Oliver for Moscow Community Theater, and we had just begun rehearsals at the Kenworthy. September 11th happened, and I got a dozen or so calls at work. Are we going to rehearse tonight? And I said, well, sure, we're going to rehearse tonight. I'm not going to stop rehearsal because this catastrophe had happened. And I said, if you don't want to come, don't, but it's not mandatory, but rehearsal will go on. And not one person missed that rehearsal.
The Kenworthy was where you would go on dates. And so, 5th and 6th grade dates were always at the Kenworthy. And let's see, holding hands with Kirk Hardin. I think I might have even got my first kiss up in the balcony of the theater. Don't tell my parents.
My first official date. Because you actually knew you were on an official date in the 60s and 70s in Moscow when you got to go to the show. And my first date at the show was at the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center with a young lad named Dennis. And we saw Yellow Submarine, the Beatles, with many of our friends. And it was my first official date. And I actually missed the movie because I was waiting to see what I should do if he started to hold my hand most of the movie, so I did have to see it again later with my girlfriends. And in case my mother is watching, no, I was not in the balcony.
My favorite memory of the Kenworthy is, granted, we all have our movies, Jaws, Bambi, The Wilderness Family, Personal Best, Golden Pond. All of those were great movies I saw at the Kenworthy. My actual personal best memory is writing a letter to Beth Kenworthy asking for for the theater, actually, if they would consider selling it or donating it. And originally I had expected that there would be a monetary transaction and we would raise money to purchase the theater from the Kenworthy family. And when I met with Beth, and she said that they were considering giving it to us, after I picked my chin up off the floor and said, "Thank you, I'll have to get back to you," I immediately called some of my closest and dearest friends and said, I need to create a nonprofit board to run this theater. And here we are 10 years later celebrating what has to be the most incredible project that the city has seen in years.
For concerts, lectures, and movies, community theater too. The performing arts is what we do at the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center. On with the show!